I thought it was a myth. I thought it was a myth. I went to the theater for the first time since Wonder Woman 84, and that was all the way back in December on Christmas. I saw this movie called Spiral from the Book of Saw. You can call it Spiral. It's a spin-off sequel. This film stars Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson, and a competent cast. And mostly this movie, Spiral, is about a criminal mastermind unleashes a twisted new form of justice. And Zeke and his partner are going to investigate. And we have the movie Spiral from the Book of Saw. Spiral had everything you want from a Saw film. It has those elements. It has the gore, tears off limbs, that rips off flesh. I mean, it has everything you want from the Saw series. You get it from this movie, but this movie takes a different route. And what it does is, it doesn't really focus on the gore fest, but it focuses more on the story building. But when you're watching this movie, you can tell that it has a higher budget due to the cinematography, the production design, and all that. And it had more of a focused plot. Yet, I did like that aspect to it. It added a mystery effect with our character. I thought Chris Rock did a decent or good job playing the character. We are known for seeing Chris Rock playing funny roles. He's a comedian. And he's taking a risk by playing a serious role, and I thought it worked. There are some scenes where he had to put a heavy emphasis on his facial expressions to make sure he's angry, to show the audience he's really angry by doing this and almost every other scene. But still, he had that funny aspect of the Chris Rock that we also love. There was a scene in this movie where he was making a joke. He's more like an angry character in this movie, because when you're watching the movie, his character drastically changes throughout this movie, where he's angry. He has so much bitterness. He's getting out of a divorce. His wife cheated on him. So he's dealing with all that, and also the other cops are incompetent because there's a lot of corruption involved, and it feels like he's the only cop that's righteous and everyone else is just corrupt. And you can see all that. Samuel L. Jackson is in this movie as well, and he plays a character named Marcus. He's the father of Zeke, Chris Rock's character. And I did like the chemistry between Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, even though seeing Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson together on screen in a Saw film, it almost feels like you're watching an SNL skit, almost. I did like how the scale, the scope of the movie, like, it felt like I was watching an episode of Law and Order or CSI or Criminal Minds, because the film focused on the mystery aspect of the killing. And during that aspect, I really like, because it's all about the journey of the character. And I did find myself enjoying the movie just from that merit. Like, I did like the fact that they broke off from the traditional trope from what you see from the other Saw films, and they try to make it bigger or make it deeper. And that leads into some of the smaller issues I will have to point out a little bit later. It does a good job on the traps. There is a trap in Jigsaw where it relies strictly on chance. And I'm just like, what? But in this movie, the traps were logical and they made sense. So I appreciated that, and I did like that aspect. But then the flaws comes in is when they tried to make the film deeper, and it didn't work. Heavily on the concept of the traps, like the reasoning of why this new copycat Jigsaw is targeting people. It tried to answer this big question, but the question doesn't go with the context of the plot. So it just didn't really make sense. And that's where the film tried to do too much, and it didn't really have a source of identity because of it. Another issue I have with this movie is more like a nitpick, but it has to deal with the character development. Yes, there wasn't much character development for Zeke and Marcus, and they relied heavily on flashback scenes. And for me personally, those of you who watch my other reviews, I complain that I don't like it when a film relies heavily on flashback scenes to develop a character. Because there's lots of scenes in this movie where a character has to tell the audience how they feel, instead of taking a moment is a non-stop gore fest from start to finish. And there wasn't a moment of pause or rest where there's characters are like talking with one another or having a deep conversation of really breaking down on what they saw or digesting on what they saw. It had like a feel, like I said earlier in the video, it had a feel of Criminal Minds, as if you're watching like an episode of Law and Order or Criminal Minds. And if you're watching Law and Order or Criminal Minds, yeah, there is a murder, there is a scene, but it's not the whole entire show. There's moments where characters have a moment to themselves and they talk to discuss and digest what they experienced and what they've seen, like dead bodies. They're trying to figure out who the killer is. There wasn't a moment in this movie. There wasn't a moment of pause or rest. So it just went from start to finish of nonstop action. So therefore, they had to force the information down your throat. And that took away from the character development. And that's where a film tried to utilize the character development through flashback scenes. But the problem with the flashback scenes is they don't tell you the time discrepancy of the flashback scene. There's a particular scene where Zeke is talking to Samuel L. Jackson's character, his father Marcus. And then he leaves the room. But then it switches to a flashback scene, and then you're kind of like confused because the film doesn't let you know you're in a flashback scene. So when a character is talking to Samuel L. Jackson, who just left the room, you're confused, and you're like, wasn't he just in the room and he left? Why is he talking to him in that room again? And then you realize it's a flashback scene. And then while the film continues, you still don't know whether if you're in the past or present. And then you realize you're still in a flashback scene. So therefore, the film does a disservice for you because you gotta backtrack and figure out what's the time discrepancy. The film should be responsible doing it itself, and that is sloppy to me. If you're a fan of the Saw series, you're going to enjoy this movie. If you're a fan of Jigsaw, you're going to enjoy this movie. It's just the film try to be deeper, and it doesn't need to be that deep. It could be deeper, but the message it just didn't follow the context of the plot. Movie is entertaining. I enjoyed myself and you will too. So I'm going to give Spiral a Michael Keaton Batman. So that's my review of Spiral. Have you seen Spiral? What are your thoughts? Comment below and let's talk about it. And I'll see you guys in my next review. I got some plenty of good reviews coming for you next. Up next, I have a review of Army of the Dead, the new film of Zack Snyder. I'm a huge Zack Snyder fan, so you know I'm going to come all over it. Stay tuned. I love you guys. Thank you for watching, and if you like everything you see and you agree, subscribe to my channel and join me in the Batman family. I'll have more Batman-tastic reviews in the way you have been warned. Till then,